Right, so I am now looking into doing non-DPS sort of best in slot builds. This is going to take considerably longer because there's a lot more that goes into it, as well as, quite simply, if you're going to do a DPS build, the idea is do damage. With ancillary builds, skill builds, tank builds, healer builds, etc, etc, there's a lot more that goes into it with specific reasoning. So, my aim is to cover turret and drone builds, mortar/seeker builds, status damage, status CC, blue builds, i.e. tank builds, they're not actually tank, which I'll go over in the tank video, healer builds and has healers. I think that should basically cover everything. If I am missing something, do let me know. So, back to kind of on track of why this is probably going to be really complex, and the easiest way to actually demonstrate this is just by simply saying there is no best in slot for any of these builds. I've had several arguments with people being like, oh, best in slot tank build, or best in slot skill build, or best in slot healer build. There isn't one. There de facto isn't one, and the reason for this is on screen now is the top recommended build for key tank in Iron Horse Raid. This is probably one of the tankiest builds you can come across. Run this in solo heroic. Hell, roll it in solo hard. It will take you a month to do anything. There is no way that that build is best in slot for literally anything other than running key tank. The same thing happens with skill builds. What are you actually wanting out of it? Same thing with mortar builds. What are you wanting out of it? There are 3 different types of mortar builds that are actually kind of worthwhile. One is slow but hits really hard. One is like medium damage but hits more frequently. And one is just absolute rapido. Fires everything now very quickly, but it's not a lot of damage. A lot of these builds as well, due to their exceedingly niche nature, see a DPS build, if you're running DPS, the idea is just kill and shoot things. If you're running a tank build, you typically want the tank to do something, or a healer build, you typically want the healer to be able to do something. Obviously, tank build should tank, but there's typically a reason why you need a tank, etc. However, most of these builds will perform better as some form of hybridization. Just putting everything, as shown in the aforementioned build, everything was like has pro, armor regen, blue cores, doesn't work too well. However, something along the lines of this, using Liberty with Foundry, Bellstone with Adrenaline Rush, and Gila Guard with Intimidate, suddenly we're able to do like 2 million damage a shot with Liberty. We're pretty damn tanky, we're able to repair our shields, and we're actually able to look after ourselves and do some hefty damage when needed. Technically a hybrid build, but the idea of it is to actually be a tank. But the idea of also being a tank is to do damage, not just stand there and go oonga boonga look at me. So for all of those reasons, I will not be naming this series best in slot. I will not be advertising these as best in slot, and obviously it's just little old me over here. I literally cannot test every single build out there. There are some builds that I know to be categorically the most useful in X scenario, such as the key tank. But then if you ask me what is going to be the best overall tank build, my answer is simply going to be, why do you need a tank? And that's not me being judgmental of, oh, you don't need a tank, just put on a DPS build. That is me sincerely asking, for what reason are you needing a tank? So, there are going to be builds you agree with, there's going to be builds you disagree with. Obviously, I can't test everything like I said. If there's something that I haven't tested or aren't showing, it's either I didn't know it exists, it's not worth me testing it, or it doesn't fall into the categories of me testing it. Prime example of this is negotiator skill builds. I know people like negotiator skill builds. I know they work fine. They are pretty good, solid builds. However, the core mechanic of what you're using on that build is still negotiators, which is DPS. You essentially have a DPS build where you have just squeezed in a turret and drone. This does not make it a skill build. It's still negotiators. It's still a DPS. Right, my healer video is pretty much good to go, which I should be getting out in the next day or so. I'm currently still really enjoying playing Remnant and just hanging around doing really dumb stuff in Division at the moment. So yeah, I'm back at hitting spreadsheets stupid hard. So these will potentially take a bit more time than usual. And if you are interested and want to give recommendations, keep an eye on my community posts, because I will be asking for people's advice / opinions on certain builds they think I should try. But in the meantime, have fun, good luck, don't die. It's bad for the health.